All right. Yeah, lots to talk about here. So we're making pretty good headway here. I got all the floor structure done up here, and obviously you can see we got the pieces of floor cut. They're not fastened down yet, obviously. If I can, let me see if I can lift this bugger out. But you can kind of see how we did this. There's just gussets on the outside, and then every other rib there's one in the center. And this is 1.5 by 3 tubing up here. Same height as the original floor. I think the original floor was 1/2 inch, and I decided to do 3/4. I don't know. It just kind of looked like it would hold up a little better, feel a little better under your feet. And it kind of that tubing kind of comes up to a certain point, and then it boxes in like there's a piece going across of that rectangle tube, and then off the center of that there's one that goes forward all the way up to where it meets the bow up there. So it's unbelievably solid. I mean, it's just crazy how stiff this boat is now. Once we finally got that whole subframe, I guess, for lack of a better word, in place, the whole boat just like as soon as we got it all done, like the thing just was like locked together. It's unbelievable. You can pick up any corner of this boat now, and it just picks up the entire boat. Like it may be a little too stiff. You know, we may have problems with it down the line with it. You know, breaking welds and stuff like that because it's too damn stiff. I don't know. I don't know if I said in a previous video. I'd rather be too stiff than not stiff enough. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it when we're really bashing on it. You know, we'll keep an eye on, check everything, keep doing inspections on it, looking at all the welds and stuff. But so you can see, we had all these dumb ideas about this fuel tank. Once I got this piece of wood in there, I just kind of slid it up in there, and this is pretty much its original location. I mean, that's where it was. So I just whipped up some quick little brackets, and the little side brackets have you know, tabs on them to attach the strap to hold the tank down, and it lines back up. Everything lines back up. You know, there's your fill. That's the original fill. I'll be replacing that, but everything will go right back in its original location. The vent is over there on that side of the hull, yeah, it should be pretty much exactly the way it was before, except the hose will be hooked up to that guy. So it's pretty simple, and I think and there's still a kind of a pretty good amount of leg room up there. And I keep having all of my friends are really tall. Most of my friends who've been helping me are 6'2", 6'5", 6'6". So I keep having them come in here and sit in this thing, you know, to try and get an idea where the seats got to be mounted and stuff like that. And what we were talking about, I'd like to do is that little void in there in between the hull and the tank, to put kind of a you know, like an angled thing to put your feet on both sides, you know, because what we found is, like, I don't know why it never really dawned on me, but the floor is pretty high in this boat compared to the height of the gunnels. You get in here and you put you know, something that's 16, 18 inches tall, like your typical, you know, post seat would normally be in a lot of boats like this, and you are sitting. I'm not that tall. I'm 5'9", and with not a very tall seat in here, I'm looking clear well over the top of it. I mean, not way over this windshield, and it just, to me, didn't look safe. You're sitting up too high. You're sitting way up here. There's just very little keeping you in the boat, you know. So And I don't know. I guess the relationship between the floor and the gunnels and the dashboard is completely different than I guess what I had in mind. You know, it's a lot. The gunnels are a lot closer to the floor than I thought. So we've just been experimenting with different height, stuff like this toolbox right here. This thing's only, I don't know, it's 7 inches tall or something like that. It's not tall at all, but that height there seems to be getting us kind of where we want to be, in terms of actually sitting down in the boat, so it's safe. It's just way lower than I thought you'd be sitting, and the seats are going to have to be way lower than I anticipated. So it doesn't make any difference. It's just I don't. It's just weird that that relationship, or how you're going to be sitting in this boat is totally different than what I expected. Your legs are going to be more out. You're not. It's not going to be like you're sitting in a chair. It's going to be more like you're sitting in a sports car. I think by the time we're done, your legs are going to pretty much go straight out. So, finding the right location to put the seat is going to be, I'm just gonna, once I get the seat base and post and everything like that, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get my tall buddies up in here. And they keep telling me, just make it fit you. Don't make it so it fits other people. That's no fun to me. I want this thing, I want other people to be able to drive it. I'm not very tall, and I don't want to set it up so nobody else can drive it because it's too frickin' cramped up here. So, and I know they make adjustable seat bases that go on those posts, or where you could slide it back to an extent. Maybe with me, have it so it's slid all the way forward, and everything's good for me. But then we can adjust it back to fit taller guys. So yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. And we were playing around with steering wheels and stuff like that, and where that's roughly going to be. And it was the same with the throttle control. Like, I thought the throttle was going to be way down here somewhere, like it normally is in a boat like this, but it really is. It's not going to be comfortable down there. The throttle is going to be weird, the way that we do it, because I want to have it so it's comfortable when you're sitting, but also when you're standing. If you're going up a shallow river where you really need to be on point and you really need to be keeping an eye on what's in front of you, you're not going to be sitting down. I'm going to be standing up. I mean, ultimately, we want to have a handrail, something to grab a hold of that goes all the way around this whole windshield, so we can stand up and see what the hell we're getting ourselves into. So I want to have the throttle control high enough that I can run it standing up, and it's somewhat comfortable. So that throttle control may end up being way the hell up here. You know what I mean? Like, it may swing. It's probably going to be pretty high. It may be kind of goofy looking. I'm going to have to build some kind of an aluminum box of some kind to hold that throttle control. But I want it pretty high. So it seems like I'm going to be more often standing than I am sitting in this boat. But I don't know. We kind of figured we'll have to get the steering, the helm, and the steering wheel in place before we do anything. Before we figure out where the throttle control's got to be, and before we figure out where the seat's got to be. Get the steering wheel in there first, and get that so you know where it's going to be and where it's going to be comfortable. So that'll be coming up here soon. Those kits are pretty cheap. They come with everything. They come with the gearbox, the cable, everything to do it. So somewhat shortly I'll be getting on that, but. You can see we got all these vertical kind of gunnel supports in here. They're just welded on the top and the bottom right now, so they're not real strong. And we were thinking of tying these to this, but what I'd like to do is come up, I don't know, somewhere right in here or whatever, with a piece of wood that'll be carpeted, and somehow create a bottom in here. So you have like a little cubby, like you see in a lot of boats, a lot of runabouts, where they have that cubby that goes all the way along the side of the boat. You know, it'll help kind of stiffen these up too if you got a piece of wood that's bridging between them. And it'll give you a little bit of storage for dock lines and stuff like that. So they go down, each one of those goes down and welds to a one of those ribs that goes across. So once those things got in place, I mean, the gunnels are rock solid now. So and back here we had like I had this bulkhead here, and then I don't know if you can really see it, but there's another one right there. And this is, we have like these little gussets that come down from the taller tube, and you know, just to, and your 1.5 by 3 is right here, so there's still something for the wood to attach to. So this is right on the inside of both of them. So I was looking at this little void, you know, and I'm picturing a bench seat right here going all the way across. I've looked at the, you know, this little pocket, and I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have a little bit more additional storage under that seat. Like it was already all boxed in. So I'm not sure if you can. I just took pieces of angle, went on the bottom and the inside of them stringers, and riveted pieces of angle in there to hold that piece of wood. And then see, there's a hole in the middle, so we'll carpet that so you can reach in and pull that out. But I don't know, it gives you another, you know, 3.5 inches deeper storage down under the seat there. So I you know, like I keep saying, the storage is going to be a commodity in here. Like, it's such a small boat. Like, we need to take advantage of every spare extra cubic, you know, foot of space. So, but then you can see we got this thing isn't totally welded in yet, but the firewall is kind of in place. We had to bridge those two gussets out there with pieces of angle iron, and you know, there's just 4 uprights here. So, and then we cut these pieces and kind of notched them around everything on both sides, so it's got as tight a fit as we possibly could. So the only hole is down here in this little piece of bar sitting in there, but there's a little hole down here, but we can, you know, whatever we got it, we can make something that fits into that little spot. So these will be screwed to the thing permanently. And my plan was, why we made this out of 3 pieces, is this center piece of wood that goes in here, I want to be like quickly removable for access, because you're going to have your fuel pumps here, and over there is going to be the alternator. So if you're out on the water and the thing breaks down, you have to, you know, or even if it's not in the water, it's here just for better serviceability to get at this stuff. I want this panel to just have like 4 bolts, you know, that we can just quickly take it out and get in there to work on that stuff, and, you know, easily get to the motor mounts and whatever else we got to do up there. And when we're testing the boat, initially, it'd be nice to have it off anyway, so we can see our water pressure gauge there, you know, from the helm. We can just look back and keep an eye on that water pressure when we're kind of setting the pressure relief valve, the water feed off of the pump. So it's not very much of an angle. It's only like 6 or 7 degrees. This bulkhead, I wanted it to be more. I wanted to get more angle out of it, but it's going to be too tight trying to get the engine in and out. So we kind of had to sacrifice a little bit. Like I didn't want to make it so I had to remove a bunch of stuff off of the engine, you know, the alternator, this or the PCM or whatever's back there and stuff in order to be able to get the engine out. You know, I want the engine to be able to come in and out quickly if need be. You know, like my other boat, the blue boat in the garage there, that thing, we can get that engine out of that boat in 20 minutes. And I'd like this to be as close to as easy as that boat as possible. So the seat back will be a little bit steeper than I wanted it to be, because your seat back will go right on this. And the plan, I think the plan so far is your seat base will be hinged at the front, along the front of the frame, you know, that holds that seat base cushion. So this entire cushion going all the way across will flip out this way. And then what we were planning on with the seat back cushion is probably have it hinged up here at the top and have it so it swings up this way. And maybe have it, you know, even if it just could sit horizontal like this, and then there was some kind of props or something to hold that thing up, so you could get into your little access spot there. So both of the cushions will be hinged. The top may be hinged this way, maybe, well, you know, it might get hinged down or something. I'm not really sure, but I think the base definitely needs to come around this way, you know, to be able to get it all your storage under here. So that's sort of the plan. Now, the one thing that we've been tossing around, I don't know if you guys have an opinion on this. We got kind of a crazy idea that we were always planning on having two post seats, two, you know, removable little fishing boat post seats up here, and then a bench seat that goes across. You know, that was just what we were going to do. So we got this weird idea though, and I'm still debating on doing it. I think it would be really cool. It would have its ups and downs. So if you had just your post seat, your driver post seat here, and I've seen this layout in some real old, like, 60s jet boats. I don't know if you guys have seen it too, where they have a bench, but it actually wraps all the way around. It's like a big L bench that goes all the way around and goes all the way up to the front. I think that would be super cool. I think it would be better for lounging, you know, like hanging out at the sandbar or cruising around on the lake and stuff. Like, you know, we'll be doing plenty of that with this thing too. I mean, I want it to be able to run these rivers around here, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to take it out on the lakes and just kind of, you know, piss around for a Saturday. And I think that layout would be really cool for that, for just hanging out in the boat and stuff. But I think that you're losing, the only thing that you're losing is the passenger. If you are trying to run the rivers, you want your passenger standing up or doing or keeping an eye on the river in front of you as much as the driver is. Like, you want both people really watching the river. You know, and you want the passenger to be able to point out stuff, you know, like, you know, watch out for, there's a rock right there, or watch out for this or that. So having just a bench that comes up there, like, the guy's got to sit there, he, like, doesn't have a seat back now. We're not really, you know, we threw out some ideas where we could still do that, wrap all the way around, but then, like, you could have, like, a removable seat back that kind of, like, drops into, like, a slot in the seat right there that you could take out if you wanted to. But you know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to describe, but you could have something that's removable that would essentially form a forward-facing seat right there. But when you're just lounging around the lake or whatever, you take that thing out. You don't need it in there because people are just going to be in here hanging out. You're just going to be cruising around the lake. So I don't know. When I first thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. We'll just do a regular old bench seat. But the more I think about it, like, man, that would be really cool. And I've never seen a riveted, aluminum boat with a interior layout like that. It would be really unique. But am I just stuck on it just because of how cool it would be? The wow factor of it. And am I like, not as much thinking about practicality. I'm thinking about, oh wow, that's unique. I'm not really sure. We're still we keep bouncing it off each other, and everybody keeps coming up with different ideas. But I mean, you have their ups and downs. You would gain, because you could do storage underneath that entire seat, and it wouldn't be hard to put a backer along that entire side of the boat to put a cushion. You'd have a cushion going all the way up to the front. I don't know, man. I just think it'd be really cool. You could even have like a little removable table right here in the corner, like so people could sit at the corner, and you'd have like a little table you could pop in and out. Or I just think that seat right there, if you did have the wraparound, that seat right there in the corner, that'd be the hot seat, man. Everybody would want to sit in that seat. It would be super comfortable. You'd be able to put your one arm over on the gunnel, one arm over here on the hood, and just that'd be awesome. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, or even if you do have an opinion on that. But anyways, so next thing we got to do here is we're going to start building the hood. You're going to have angle iron, of some kind in here to support the front of the hood. The side of the hood will sit in this angle. It's going to be taller than the boat. It's going to have to be in order to clear the some of the parts, especially that fuel filter right there. Some dumbass mounted the fuel filter way too high. So the hood is actually going to come up. It's going to be like 2 inches higher than the gunnels here. So my plan was 2 by 3. So you'd have 3-inch going this way angle, and then 2-inch going that way. And you would build a frame all the way around the whole thing, and then going along here, you would have this same square tube supports that are welded into that frame that kind of just came over the engine here, and that would create your frame, and then you would skin that with that 1/2-inch plywood over there, same stuff we're using here. And I think it'd be pretty stout. And somewhere down in here, whatever, we'll build our brackets for the two gas shocks to hold the hood up. We'll probably have a prop in there too, just in case the gas shocks fail. So yeah, it'll be nice. And we have like a void right here, and this is another one of my crazy ideas that I think would be really cool. But because there's nothing here, you could, on the hood, you could put a seat base, that same base that you got up there, so you can take your driver's seat out and pop it into this base, and then you got a big, huge, flat deck up here to fish off of that you can swing around, and I mean, that would be awesome. If I could get away with that, I'm really hoping I can. So we'll see. And then back here, so this bar will be where the hood terminates. The hinges will either be on here or they'll be out here. I don't know, but this will be where the hood ends. And then we'll just have a couple of square tube pieces going in here. So in between these two pieces will be our little access panel that we can flap open so we can get down to the weed clean out with the hood closed. So you could just kind of slide over the hood here, pop this little guy open, clean the weeds out, and close it again. So out here, there will be, this will just be the probably skinned with wood and carpet again, like the hood. So I'm thinking about building this up to the height of the hood with angle iron here. Form a little frame again, but weld it to everything here. Screw your piece of wood to it so it's the same height as or maybe even taller than the hood by a small amount. So I can put my scoops here, my ventilation scoops. I want 2 of them facing forward here, 2 of them facing rearward on that side. It's a perfect location for it. You know, it's just the right amount of space. I could get my blower underneath here somewhere and have enough space to be able to duct the 3-inch ducting down into the bilge there. So whatever we got to do to build this up to the height there, I think it was like 2-inch 2x2 angle or something we could weld on here and give us something to screw our little pieces of wood to it. The little door in the center could just be made out of wood. It doesn't need an aluminum frame underneath it or whatever, you know. It'll just be a piece of wood that has some kind of a hatch latch to it. So, and yeah, this is another big deal here. This is really cool. So I don't know if you guys remember the where are they at? I don't know where they're at. I don't know if you guys remember my outlets that I had on my manifolds, but these are essentially V-drive manifolds. And the old V-drives did not have risers. They just had straight outlets. They just come out and just dump down. They didn't need risers because the back of the boat would have a cavitation plate down here, and the tailpipes are above the cavitation plate. They didn't need risers. There's no risk of reversion or water, you know, surges of water going back up in the boat. Not to mention, the engines are mounted way higher. You know, they're sitting up way high to get that correct driveline angle, and they're facing the other direction. So I searched, and I've been searching ever since I did this. I adapted these Ford manifolds to this motor. I have been trying to find risers that fit this flange. Because these are made for small block Ford, Edelbrock made a very similar set. It looked exactly like this, except for small block Chevy. And that's the only 2 sets of these things that I've seen is for small block Ford and small block Chevy. And I had never seen them with risers. If I had ever seen pictures of these, or I'd found some that were for sale or whatever else, they always had the regular outlets on them, like what I had. And once we got this thing in here and started looking at it, man, I was starting to get kind of paranoid about the fact of not having risers. I was looking at like exhaust check valves and stuff like that, and all this other stuff to try and work around that. You know, stupid stuff that, you know, because I couldn't find risers. And one day, I don't know, it was on Marketplace or might have been on Craigslist or something like that. I found this guy. I'm up in mid-Michigan. This guy was in Indiana, not far from me at all. You know, all of this stuff is in Southern California, like all of it. That's where it all comes from. That's where the whole scene is. You know, so even if I did find something that I could maybe make work or whatever, I had to ship it from frickin' California. This guy was in Indiana, and he had the Edelbrocks like these, but for the small block Chevy. And they had the regular outlets on it, but he also had these to go with them. And he did not want to separate. He wanted to sell all of it for $750. And, you know, absolutely will not separate. And I'm thinking, shit, man, I bet those things will fit right on these. Because, like I said, they look exactly the same. This casting looks identical. But obviously the port setup, the you know, is totally different for the small block Chevy. But I didn't have a measurement or anything like that. But I'm like, man, I didn't even think those existed. But they look like they would. I know I could make them work, you know, even if they weren't exactly right, because it's this flange diameter. That's the deal. This is always different. Every time I've gotten a measurement on a riser that maybe looked like it would work or whatever, that flange diameter was totally different. The hole on the inside for where the exhaust passes through, completely different. So I could have made them work, but to find these with this guy right just a few hours away from me, and literally look like they would bolt right on. So I hit the guy up, and I'm like, yeah, I know you don't want to separate them, but and I am really interested in those risers. And he messaged me back and says, well, he's like, you might be in luck because I just had a guy get a hold of me 10 minutes earlier that said he only wanted the manifolds, didn't want the risers, and was willing to pay him $500 or something like that for the manifolds. So we went back and forth, you know, I'm just giddy like a little schoolgirl, and I'm like, I mean, would you take, I don't know what I threw at him, 250 or something? You know, but if I found risers like this, even on like eBay or something, it was 250 a piece. Like, these things are, the price of, they're just astronomical. All of them that I've found. You know, mine is shipping. You know, you pay $100 in shipping or something. It's just ridiculous. And he says, yeah, 250's fine. And like, I PayPal him the money, and the guy was like literally just walking out the door to go to work. So he grabbed the risers and took them with him and dropped them off at the UPS store. Like, this whole transaction took like 20 minutes, if that. And they were in the mail on their way up here. I had them the next day. And sure as shit, I bring them in here and I pull those stupid outlets off, and everything is exactly the same. The bolt pattern is the same. The flange diameter is the same. The ID is the same. Everything is the same. These things bolted right on. I could not have been more excited to get these things. I've never seen another set. I didn't think these even existed. I thought these manifolds were only made for V drives, and nobody ever made risers that worked with them. But apparently I was wrong, because they do. The only thing that's different is the outlet diameter is bigger on these. This is a little under 3-inch if you actually put a tape on it. So I'm going to try some 3-inch holes and see how it fits on it. But these things are going to enable me to have above the waterline exhaust, like essentially through holes. Like, I'm going to be able to have tailpipes up here that are going to be above the waterline at the dock. So I'm amped about that. The wife is not real excited about that once I explained it to her. She's like, so it's going to be loud now? Didn't you say it was going to be like really quiet before? Because it was going to be, we were going to run the exhaust way the hell down here. It was going to be, you know, whisper quiet at the dock. Not anymore. She's going to sound like a hot rod at the dock. You know, maybe I'll get tired of it eventually. I don't know. Probably not. I'm super stoked about that, you know. And they're going to be protected. I don't got to be paranoid about sucking water or, you know, the boat stalling underway, and then as it comes to a stop, the water just runs right up into the engine. Because it was almost guaranteed it was going to happen at some point with those outlets that I had before. So yeah, super stoked that I found those and got them for $260, I think. I mean, that was shipped. That was including shipping. So awesome. So she's going to sound cool. She's going to look cool at the dock. So the only thing we're up in the air about is, I don't know if you can, so I made two battery trays out of aluminum just to fit these boxes that I had laying around. And I don't know where to put these damn batteries. I wanted to put them up front just to get the weight of the batteries, both of them up there, you know, and I figured it'd be easier to wire and stuff like that too, being they'd be right up there with the controls. But there's no good place to put those up there like I was hoping. Once I got that tank in there and I started fishing these things up in there, I could put them up there and they wouldn't affect legroom at all, but they would literally be right up against the side of the gas tank. Both batteries would be on either side of the gas tank. And you look at the Coast Guard regulations, they don't want to have a fuel fitting, any kind of a connection or a fuel line. I think not even a line, but just a connection. They don't want it directly above or below a battery. And they don't want a battery above or well, you get it. They don't want fuel going under a battery. They don't want fuel going over a battery, essentially. So it's legal. I could legally put them right next to that damn fuel tank if I wanted to, but I just can't get past that. I can't. At work, you know, I've had batteries explode right next to me. You know, I had one on a little generator, and we went to start the thing. As soon as we hit the key, the battery exploded. You know, and if I would have been in a slightly different position, I would have got blasted in the face with broken plastic from the battery enclosure. So I understand marine batteries are built to a higher standard, and that probably there's a extremely slim chance of that ever happening. But you know what's going to happen if the battery does explode? It's going to go right through that plastic, and it's going to go right through that plastic fuel tank too, like nothing. It's going to blow or eat right through it. You know, I just couldn't get past having them things right next to the battery. It just scares me. There's too much of a risk of spark, and you taking the, you know, maybe you had a terminal loosen up, and then at the same time you have some kind of fitting that's leaking fumes up there on top of the battery. And it just, you know, these are the type of things that cause explosions and fires in boats. Is like multiple things all failed and were not caught, and then they all came together, and then the boat explodes and kills everybody on it. You know, so I can't bring myself to put those things up there. I would just be paranoid about it all the time. So they're either going to have to go here, which in this case we would cut this wood right out of there. We wouldn't even have it in there, and we would just we would recess these down. You know, this thing would be down like right on the floor. So the lid of the battery would only be, you know, 4 inches above the wood here. So you put them in there, you're kind of screwing yourself under that seat for storage, you know, to an extent. Not really, kind of, you know. Or the other option was in here. This is like extremely tight, getting them in here in between this gusset and the wood. They do fit. It's really tight, you know. And the other option would be up on top of these things and like out here, out against the, you know, I'm not really, I haven't made up my mind. I don't know where I want to put these damn things. I don't like the idea of me even being back here because we got enough weight with this boat anchor. I hate to add more weight. It's not that much more weight, but in here is probably the safest. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it would really matter whether they are up there. If you had them up there, you're obviously moving them a little bit farther forward. So I don't know. Again, if any of you guys who were paying attention to this got an opinion, I don't know, let me know what you think. They probably should go in the engine bay. It just seems like that's where they're always at. Because then we could, you know, there's my little battery switch right there. You could put that thing like over here, kind of recessed into the, you know, so both of the cables would run along over here, and you'd have your switch, and then they could run back to the starter. So having them back here does minimize the amount of cable. Obviously, if you had them up there, you got to run cable all the way to hell back here, but I don't know. And I always had it in mind that I was going to make them fit up front, but I can't. I can't bring myself to do it now, so I'm going to have to come up with a different option. The alternator, this is a marine one-wire Delco. I think it's 105 or 110 amps. So this is going to be actually facing backwards is what I'd like to do. Roughly, you know, right in here, right up tight against the front of the engine, and running off of the old AC grooves here. Get a little 4-rib belt. I found a 4-groove pulley. to put on the front of that. I didn't know you can run them backwards. I got talked to like I'm an idiot by a few old farts on a Facebook group. Like, yeah, dummy, you can run them backwards. What are you, stupid? You know, you weren't born with that knowledge. Well, apparently a generator has to run, you know, whatever rotation it was designed to run, but an alternator, you can spin them either direction, and they charge just fine. They don't care. You know, being their alternating current. The only thing that you run into, I don't know where the hell, somewhere around here I got my fan. Where the hell did that wind up? So the fans on them are, at least most of them, are not bi-directional. They are actually directional. Oh, there it is. So these things, as you can see, are directional. This is made to spin a you know, one direction, or it's not going to move air properly through the alternator. What I found out, you know, this is your standard Delco, you know, this fits all the Delcos pretty much. Corvairs, the old Corvairs that had the flat sixes in them, with that goofy belt drive. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. The belt like comes up and like changes plane and goes back to, it's really weird. But they have a Delco that spins the opposite direction. So it's a fan that looks exactly like this, but it's just the blades are in the opposite direction. So, and I found that for, I don't know, it was like $10 or something. So I ordered one of those, and that I've just got to figure out the belt length, and we should be good with that. We'll probably do that now that we know where it has to be. We'll do that when we get the engine back out, because the engine's going to have to come back out one more time for us to do the final set on the intake and the pump and everything. So yeah, it should be pretty simple though. There's a nice big flat space there for the for it to mount to, and I'm probably going to use one of those little adjusting rods, you know, right hand, left hand, little Heim rods that are just real short, little turnbuckle basically, where you turn the center of it and you can run it in and out. So you don't have to use a pry bar, you know, you wouldn't have to get a bar in here and pull the damn thing tight, and you could just tighten and loosen that little turnbuckle if you did happen to throw a belt. And I'll probably keep an extra belt in the boat. So that should be a pretty simple setup. And then, you know, it's a one wire, so one cable going down over to the starter terminal, you know, done. So, yeah, long video. Sorry. Holy shit. Look at me go. Yeah. So I'm laid off. That's why so much is getting done. Company's really slow right now, so they laid off most of the company, right? And so the past couple weeks I've been you know, doing side work just to make some extra money, but for a lot of the time I've been out here actually playing with this thing. This son of a bitch will be in the water in the springtime, by God. And, you know, if it's the last thing I do, I'm not going through another summer with this boat sitting in here not finished. It's not happening. So we're motoring right along. Like I said, let me know what you guys think on the interior layout and whatever else. If you do have an opinion. If not, whatever. Keep watching videos. I'll see you on the next one. See ya.